Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news the morning after the night before as Manchester United crash out of Europe completely out of Europe, and with many reports this morning saying that Erik ten Hag is inevitably going to face the sack at some point in the next few weeks, months or 18 months, which is still months. I suppose the question is, what next? What next for Manchester United? And I say this, welcome to Members Club Wick. I say this, one thing I think we need to call ourselves out for as a fan base is the apathy. And if people don't know what apathy is, just the general, just almost like people are getting used to this. Oh, well, what can we do? What can we do? The Glazer out movement has disappeared. The results have become acceptable. To crash out of Europe completely, people are just going, it's disappointing. Like, what are we going to do? And this is. I think this needs to be called out. I don't want to see another manager sacked. I don't want to see another manager sacked. But I know what I do want. I want an absolute clear out. And what better opportunity than this? If Bayern Munich got kicked out of Europe, there'd be a huge review of the football club. If Bayern Munich didn't win the Bundesliga, there'd be a huge review of the football club. 10 years we've not been a title contender. 10 years we've not been a Champions League contender. And we still haven't had this kick up the arse review of this football club. I think it's lazy. And people might be surprised this morning because I was arguing at the weekend against the Ten Hag out movement, and I was quite adamant about it, and I still will argue about it. But I find the Ten Hag out movement lazy. I wake up this morning and all I see is Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. What does that even mean? You don't give us anything else other than 3 words, Ten Hag out. I'm angry and frustrated and I'm Ten Hag in. But guess what? I don't think it's about the manager exclusively. I'm angry about the whole thing. I think it's fucking I think it's an absolute disgrace that we are out of Europe completely. I think it's going to cause us huge problems financially. I think that it's an absolute cop-out to say that we need to praise the players for their effort last night. The Champions League group stage is an accumulation of 6 games. It's not Bayern Munich at home. It's an accumulation of 6 games, and it's not acceptable. And this morning, I feel angry. I don't feel like going, oh, well, it's just a reflection of where we are. We've just got to see what happens with Sir Jim. Maybe at some point, at somewhere, we'll be decent again. We're going to get beat by Liverpool at the weekend. And then you've got people going, Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. And I'm like, no. This has to stop. As a fan base, I think we're rudderless. I think we're in the sea and we've got no direction. Now, maybe that's down to us as fans. We never unite together. It's always about arguments. It's always about this, that, look at this. Why do people watch this? Why do people go there? Why won't people go here? This fan base is too self-serving. There's this top red thing where it's like, if you're a proper fan, you're not a proper fan, you're a proper fan, let's be with them, when actually this is why the Glazers survive. I was thinking about this morning. The Glazers will be really happy this morning because there's no movement against them at all. There's an apathy in the fan base and everyone is just sort of like going, oh, it's not great, is it? But nothing's being done. This wouldn't happen at Liverpool. This wouldn't happen at Real Madrid. This wouldn't happen at Bayern Munich. We should be ashamed of ourselves as a fan base as to what we have allowed to happen at this football club. We are sat waiting for a guy who can't even get a 25% deal over the line because the Glazers are still getting it locked up with lawyers. Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanted this deal done 6 weeks ago. It's still not got done now. And it's not got done because it's with lawyers. And why is it with lawyers? Because the Glazers are probably going, we don't want this, we don't want that. And we're all sat there going, when will it happen? When will it happen? It's a 25% deal. 25%. And they can't even get it over the line because the Glazers are causing issues. We're not being saved by the Glazers. The Glazers are still here. The problems are still here. We need what needs to happen this morning is a clear out at Manchester United. This is a great opportunity to make big changes. And it needs to happen now. But it can't happen now because we've still not even had the 25% football side Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's still sat on his arse in Nice while the Glazers sit there checking over the small print. Fucking get on with it. We've just crashed out of Europe. We're not even in Europe. That's probably cost us 50 million quid. We won't probably be in Europe next year, and we've probably caused that. Because to get a 5th place in the Champions League, it's based on this year's performance by English clubs. And we've just fucked everybody because we've dropped out of Europe altogether. If we'd gone into the Europa League, you can still earn points for England in the Coefficients League. If you drop out completely, that's no points going to England. Well done, Manchester United. So not only have we crashed out of Europe before Christmas, we've probably fucked up 5th place for the Champions League as well. And that's on us. We should be apologising to everybody who thinks 5th place will get them Champions League football, because we've just fucked it. And we fucked ourselves as well. This club is absolutely on its knees. And we're sat there waiting for a guy we don't even know what his plan's going to be for 25%. And you've got a movement going, Ten Hag out, shut up. That is not the problem at Manchester United. Maybe Ten Hag sacking is inevitable, but for God's sake, we need to grab this opportunity by the horns and make the changes. We are out of Europe before Christmas, and we are out of a top 4 race before Christmas. We are out of a top 4 race, by the way. We ain't getting top 4. We are out of a top 4 race, and we are out of Europe before Santa's loaded up his fucking sleigh. If this isn't a pivotal moment in our football club, if this isn't an opportunity to make big change, then what is? And we should be demanding it. We should be demanding it as a fan base. Instead of just sitting there going, Ten Hag out, look at his tactics. I'm telling you what, you're probably surprised, because at the weekend I was arguing against this, saying we shouldn't change our manager. I'm now saying that the Ten Hag out movement is fucking lazy and it isn't actually doing enough for this football club like everybody else. We need major change. There should be a demand this morning for major change. Last night after the game, I'm listening to Ten Hag. I'm like, I don't want to listen to that. I'm listening to Delo. I don't want to listen to that. Man United, when they were a decent team, you'd get knocked out of Europe in the early noughties, and Roy Keane would come on the telly and he would say, we've been kicked out of this tournament because we're not good enough. We didn't buy good enough players in the summer, and if you don't have good enough players, you don't do well in Europe, and the club needs to take a look at it yourself. Anyone old enough will remember Roy Keane used to do that when we were winning league titles. We were winning league titles, getting knocked out of the Champions League in the quarter-final, and he'd come on the telly and say, the club's not doing enough, we should be buying better players. That's the level. Last night, Beth was there, Ryan was there, players came out, didn't even speak to the press, wouldn't say a word, not allowed to, I don't know what's going on. That's the mentality of Man United. We sing when we're winning. If we'd have won last night, they'd have all been there going, yeah, it's great, yeah. You lose a game, no accountability. No accountability at all. Those players should be stepping up and telling us what's going on. It's ridiculous what's going on at Manchester United, and this is an opportunity, and any decent football club would be calling for a major report and meeting this morning about how that's gone wrong. We've gone out of Europe completely. Everything we did last season is in the bin. We came 3rd last year for nothing. Nothing. That 3rd place last season was for this, and we've absolutely messed it up. You cannot just come out and go, oh, well, we've had a few injuries. We've tried our best. We're in a group with Copenhagen and Galatasaray, and I'm hearing people go, Ten Hag out. Come on. We've got to go bigger than that. We've got to go bigger than that. We need a clear out. We need a new director of football, which we're probably going to get. We need a CEO. We need to look at the fitness department. We need to look at recruitment. We need to look at the youth development. And we need to look at that playing squad. And those things need to happen now. Now. Not next week. Not next month. Not next year. Now. These changes need to happen now. I don't know what's going on with this deal, but get Blanc in as the CEO. Get the new director of football in. Now. Now it needs to happen. Not next month, it's with the lawyers. It needs to happen now, because it should have happened a year ago. It should have happened in the summer. Forget moaning about the Ten Hag out thing, because that's going to take care of itself. Don't you worry. What we need is the bigger things. We need the infrastructure. We need the CEO. We need the director of football. And we need to go through that bloody playing squad, and we need to make changes. Because I tell you what, I was on stage in Manchester on Monday with Ben Foster, and we went through the entire Man United side, and the principle was this. Are these players going to make us win the title? Onana, not for me. Wan-Bissaka and Delo, one of them's got to go. Maguire, Varane, Lindelof, 2 of them have got to go. Luke Shaw, look, if he's going to be injured, he needs replacement. Amrabat, played well last night. I'll give him a bit more time. Casemiro, you should be keeping him for as long as possible. Bruno, you've got to ask a question. Is he ultimately, over the next 3 years, going to give us what we need? McTominay, gotta go. Eriksen, gotta go. Garnacho, keep him. Anthony, I'd still give him a bit more time, like Amrabat. Rashford, big question to ask. Martial, gotta go. Rasmus, needs developing, needs nurturing. You know, you've got to start asking these big questions about players. Big questions. None of this messing around anymore. Big decisions need to be made, and people who are going to make those decisions need to come into the football club now. Start off with changing another manager. Do it by all means, but that's only the beginning. We need to get into this and get on with it quick. That's what needs to happen, because if I cannot believe the apathy in the fan base this morning. And that's people who support Ten Hag, and that's Ten Hag outers as well. So that's all of you. The amount of people this morning who are just accepting that. It is not acceptable what happened last night. There are no words. It is unacceptable, and there has to be accountability. If we are to be Manchester United, if we are to be the football club that my granddad got me supporting, the team that Sir Bobby Charlton played for, that Sir Alex Ferguson managed, that Roy Keane captained, the Manchester United we know has disappeared, and we need to fight for it. We have become something I don't recognise, and it has to change. And on the manager, we don't even... The thing is, people say sack Ten Hag. Who is going to sack him? Because we're just about to change the whole footballing side. And that footballing side's not there. So who's calling him into the office this morning? Nobody. People don't realise what's going on at Man United at the moment. There's nobody to call Erik Ten Hag into the office to sack him. We have an interim CEO. The Glazers are working on a deal. There's nobody there to get him in the office this morning and go, what the fuck's going on? Because we haven't done this deal yet. He needs calling into the office this morning, sitting down, and I would say to Ten Hag, what the fuck is your vision, mate? I want to back you. I want to back you, but you better give me something to back, because I'm looking at the decisions you've made over the last 6 months. What you've done with the goalkeeper has cost us 100 million quid. Why are you picking Scott McTominay? Why is the midfield wide open? Why has Varane been out the team for the last month? What is going on with all these injuries? Are people injured? Are the team playing for you? What style of football do you want? Where do you want? What transfers do you want? Who do you want to sell? Get that on my office, in my email box by 1 o'clock today. And I tell you what, if I don't like it, we may as well end it. And that needs to happen. And look, I would hope that Ten Hag would provide those bullet points, and I'd like all of it. And I'll go, right, let's get moving. But we need to know that. We need to know why that's happened, why this season is happening, but who is there to do that? Who is there to do that? An interim CEO? Bollocks. The Glazers couldn't give a shit. We don't even have the infrastructure. People are saying sack the manager. This is what I mean. It's lazy. It's so bloody lazy. There's so many bigger problems with Man United than the manager. But the best thing about it is Man United don't even have the things in place to sack him. They don't have the CEO with the power to do it. They don't have the owners with the power to do it, because they're doing this deal. We're in the middle of a season, and we don't even have an ownership model. We don't have it. It's incredible. Mark, fun fact on McTominay, has had 3 assists, not this season, but in his whole career, says IQ. Glazers out because the players we were meant to sell in the last summer didn't happen because of them. Let Erik Ten Hag work with the squad he actually wants, says Braden. Well, you know what? I'm tired of, I think even Scholesy said it last night about Harry Kane. Look, there are enough real problems with Manchester United without making up ghosts and bloody dinosaurs. I mean, this story about Harry Kane it's for bloody idiots. Oh, Man United should have bought Harry Kane. Oh, we may as well have got Mbappe while we're at it. We couldn't buy Harry Kane because Spurs were not going to sell him to any Premier League club. The Harry Kane thing is stupidity. The Kim Min-jae argument is relevant. Kim Min-jae was expected to be coming to Manchester United. He thought he was coming to United, and we absolutely messed it up. How can we get rid of Onana? He's not a United keeper at all. Also, I'm getting sick of Shaw and his injuries. I think we should sell him too, says Apple TV. Well, look, on the Onana thing, there's a lot to talk about this morning. Well, look, I'm not changing my mind. It's all about opinion. Well done if you back Onana. I do back him. I don't think he's good enough, but I find it incredible, absolutely incredible. And it's all about opinion, of course. But as I said before, I can respect an opinion and I don't have to value it. And I don't value people who tell me that Onana's not to blame, because I've got the experience and knowledge and I can flesh it out why I do blame him. I blame him because he's cost us so many goals this season. It's not last night. It's not last night. I know his positional sense was amateur last night, standing on his fucking goal line instead of running out, but maybe he wouldn't save it anyway. But the amount of goals he's cost us this season, I'm sorry, whether you're a big fan of Onana or not, and I do like Onana, he ain't good enough. He's cost us he's cost us European football. It's as simple as that. But ultimately, it goes back to, why did we do the deal in the first place? You know, I will support Onana. I hope he has a good game at Anfield. But, you know, managers get sacked off making these sort of mistakes. He has made a horrific mistake with that goalkeeper. He spent £50 million replacing a better goalkeeper. He's cost us European football. And it's also now going to cost us probably another 50 million in not qualifying for Europe. It's an absolute... People talk about Mason Mount. The Onana decision is absolutely incredible. But that's what happens when you don't have a good director of football. I mean, I question what John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold were doing there. What do they know about football? How have they even authorised that deal? It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you get people saying, oh, De Gea cost us loads of goals. Yeah, did he? Did he? Because I seem to remember we had 17 clean sheets in the Premier League last year. I seem to remember we came third and got to 2 cup finals. I don't see David De Gea making the mistakes that Onana's made this year. I'm not saying David De Gea was perfect, but you know what? I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it's an improvement, because it's not. And as for people who say, well, David De Gea hasn't even got a club, I think we all know that's because of financial reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if David De Gea pulled on a Chelsea shirt or a Newcastle shirt for the second half of this season. And if he does, then the pressure's really going to go up on Ten Hag if David De Gea starts playing well. Do you, like me, feel that the motivation to keep up diminishes when United disappoints so often? And do you notice it in the traffic United, says Mr. Fred? No, I don't. I think, you know, we've been doing this for years and the audience is normally the same. In fact, I think after results last night, people want to vent and are frustrated more. It's an incredible situation. I'm absolutely dumbfounded by the situation that we find ourselves in with Manchester United at the moment, because I feel that I just can't believe we're not in Europe. If you'd have said to me at the start of the Champions League campaign, what's the worst case scenario, I would have said Thursday night football. No football when February comes on. I can't believe it. And to all those people who say, well, at least we can work on the training ground now, do these players look like they're working on the training ground? They're moaning about training. I mean, they're going to be trained more now. They're going to moan even more. I think that, and I said this on the watch along last night, my big concern is this team is now reminding me of the last few weeks of Ranić, where lots of people are picking up lots of injuries and illnesses, and you know what? I don't know what's going on there. Hi Mark, Onana hasn't just cost us the Champions League, he's made fundamental errors in the league too. Erik Ten Hag needs to understand he's fucked up, says Alex. And Erik Ten Hag has to go because he makes awful decisions on lineups and tactics, especially his new signings. Giving him time does not change these things, says Richard. Well, as I said, Richard, I mean, that's an interesting thought. But if you think that the manager is exclusively at fault for Manchester United's problems, then you're, in my opinion, very, very, very naive. I think the problems are huge. Not going to lie, says Navin, given our injuries and seeing us play has me so worried that I'd gladly take a 2-0 loss at Anfield, says Navin. And why aren't United fans boycotting, buying merchandise and emptying the stadium on match days? If you aren't prepared to do that, then don't complain about the owners, says Michelle. Look, I'm a United fan, you're United fans. Collectively, we have to take responsibility here. But I think we can all agree, and some people won't like it because they don't like being criticised, but we all have to criticise ourselves and say that for some reason, we wake up this morning and there is not an air of frustration and determination to change things at Manchester United. There is an apathy of this is who we are. I don't understand why the Glazers have been allowed to, you know, basically flirt with a sale for 9 months and then say we're not leaving and we're working on a 25% deal. How does that work? How are the Glazers allowed to do what they've done? How have we as a fan base let them do what they've done over the last 12 months? How have we allowed them to hint that they're going to go and then they say, we're staying. We're keeping 75% of this club and we're staying. And we're now working really slowly on a 25% deal where we stay in control and fuck up the season. Because we have had injuries, there are problems, there are excuses, and there are tactical mistakes as well. There are accumulation of problems at Manchester United this morning. But also overarching that is the fact that the club is just on its knees, not being run properly because it's working its way like a snail through some weird 25% deal that should have been done ages ago and primarily should have been done in the summer when we're not playing games, because we desperately need leadership at the moment and we haven't got any. People saying sack the manager, we actually can't because we don't have an ownership model at the moment. It's in limbo. The Glazers can't make those sort of decisions because they're going to do a deal with a guy who's going to be dealing with the footballing side, but he's not in position to do it. So we're in limbo. That's why John Mert is still the director of football working on the January transfer window. That's why we've got an interim CEO. We can't make these decisions. So how can you make decisions on the pitch when you can't make decisions in the boardroom? It's an absolute joke. And I don't know what fan organisations are doing at the moment. I mean, automatically you look at the Manchester United Supporters Trust and must. Like, what are we doing as a fan base? Why are we just sat there accepting the club with the handbrake on? And what happens when you've got the handbrake on? Everybody else goes past you. There is a direct correlation between Manchester United's complete and utter capitulation in Europe and what's going on in the boardroom. The club is on its knees with the handbrake on, with no leadership, and on the pitch, we've just crashed out of Europe completely. That's not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence. The shit show of the summer transfer window is not a coincidence when it's going hand in hand with the Glazers' obsession with making a little bit of money. How can if you're running a restaurant and you know you're selling part of it and you're not going to be running it anymore, are you motivated to change the menu? Are you motivated by your TripAdvisor reviews? You couldn't give a shit. That's somebody else's problem. I'll own it from above and I'll make money from it still, but I don't care about what's on the menu. I don't care whether people are giving us good reviews. The new owner can deal with that. That's not my problem. And this is what's happening. Sir Jim Radcliffe's coming in to run the football side of things. It's his problem, but he can't get hold of it because the Glazers are doing this, that and the other, and they don't care about the footballing side because it's going to be somebody else's problem. We are in fucking limbo and we are sat there going like fish going, and we shouldn't be. We should be like bloody great white sharks. We should be on the attack. This is not acceptable. When is this going to change? It is embarrassing to be sat here on December the 13th, out of Europe completely and out of the top 4 race completely. Not acceptable. And injuries are not an excuse. They're not an excuse. The injuries are not an excuse. I'm not having this. I'm not having this. We would be a better team if we had our players fit, but injuries are not an excuse. Luke Shaw's been injured for 3 months and he's injured again. Surprise, surprise. Harry Maguire did his groin. Surprise, surprise. Casemiro or Martinez will come back and get injured again. Surprise, surprise. We're getting injuries because our squad is not good enough and the same set of players have to play a lot, like last season. And therefore, they're playing a lot of games and therefore, they're more liable to get injured. The injury crisis at Manchester United is not bad luck. It's actually deliberate. We just pretend it's bad luck. We will continue to get injuries because we use the same players time and time again and a very compact fixture list. And it's also a hangover from last season. What they should have done in the summer transfer window is listen to people like you who said we need 4 or 5 players to help the squad out because we're going to get a lot of injuries next year. And what they did is just replace like for like. Fred went, Amrabat came in. We needed a striker anyway, so Højlund came in. Mason Mount came in, and, you know, who did Mason Mount replace? Well, we were short in the midfield anyway. Evans came in as a, you know, it should have been Kim Min-jae. That we didn't actually boost this squad. We replaced players or put a player in place where we didn't have enough last year. We should have been buying a lot more than we did. The summer transfer window was a disgrace. Hi, Mark. It's my birthday today. Can I get a happy birthday? Says Sylv. And Mark, I agree with you on Ten Hag. I liked him from the moment he stepped in and made huge choices. The problems at United are at the top. If this was any other club, the fans would step up and boycott a long time ago, says Jamie. Look, welcome to Members Club, Varron. And welcome, James Bloom. Also, Eric Ten Hag. Richard, we've done that one. Can injuries not be a result of overtraining also? Peter, I don't know where this nonsense comes from. Overtraining is absolute... You know what? I'm trying to stay calm and be more, pragmatic here. Overtraining. I've never heard such bollocks in all my life. Nonsense, as Roy Keane would say. You're having a laugh. Overtraining. I mean, these are the players that when Rangnick was here were complaining that they had to drive home in the dark. These are the players that are toxic, divisive, overpaid and don't understand what Manchester United's all about. And you're going to give them another get out of jail card that they're being overtrained. They're not being overtrained. They're not being overtrained. Look at the first game of the season against Wolves. They outplayed us. They were fitter than us. They were quicker than us. What would you do if you were the manager of Man United and you watched that opening game against Wolves? Not fit enough, not quick enough. I'll take a couple of days off and have more rest. That team isn't fit enough. What Ten Hag is trying to do is get their fitness levels up. If those players can't deal with that, maybe we need to look at the last 5 years and question what we've been doing with this football club. These players, if they can't deal with being trained properly, then there's a massive problem. And maybe that is the problem. Maybe these players just don't suit Premier League football because you've got to be fit. You've got to be on it every single game, and they're certainly not. So you're telling me that training these players less will make them sharper and fitter for games? Bollocks. They need to train more. They need to get fitter. But the reality is the injury crisis for Manchester United. We sat here this time last year. The World Cup was coming to an end. We looked at the fixtures and went Forest on Boxing Day, and then we're playing a game every 3 or 4 days until May if we stay in the cups. And we did with a very small squad. We're getting injuries because we overplayed players last year because of a small squad that we didn't add players to in January. But Newcastle are in this situation. Newcastle are in the same situation. They could go out of Europe tonight as well. It's not an excuse. But Newcastle are in a harder group than us. Dortmund, AC Milan and PSG. Ten Hag in. It's time for a rebuild. Did you hear Ten Hag press conference after the game saying we played good enough, which I don't agree. Well, I'm going to go through that in a moment, Seth, because I think that the thing that stands out to me this morning is that I am against sacking the manager. So in some ways, you might expect me and people who support the manager to come out and say, it's not his fault, this, that, and the other. But I'm not going to say that. In fact, I'm going to go a level above the frustration of the Ten Hag out movement because I just think that's lazy. I think saying Ten Hag out, and what else? What else do you want to do? Who are you going to replace him with? What's the plan going to be? And also, is that all you're going to do? I call the Ten Hag out movement and say you're not doing enough. Changing the managers just narrow-minded. I mean it's just where did you learn that? Football fans for dummies. And because sacking a manager is what everybody's done for time. It's what everybody does. Sack your manager. Yeah, sack the manager. The results aren't good enough. At Manchester United, we have sacked enough managers in the last 10 years. I don't wake up this morning and go that's on the manager. In fact, looking at that game last night, Bayern Munich are better than us. Look at the two squads. They're better. They've got a better team. They've got a better bench. You could say they've got a better manager, but they've certainly got a better team. Losing 1-0 to Bayern Munich isn't the end of the world. That last night, I don't agree with Ten Hag that we played well, but last night's performance wasn't that bad. Bayern Munich are a good side. We lost 1-0. When you look at the players, you look at the back four, it wasn't terrible. I'm talking about why we're out of Europe. I'm talking about Galatasaray home and away. I'm talking about Copenhagen away. I'm talking about Bayern Munich away. That's why we're out of Europe. That's what I'm angry about that. But what is without doubt is that if you are just saying change the manager, I think you're only scratching the surface of what the problems are at United. As I said, there needs to be a massive review this morning. But what's frustrating me is that we haven't got the people there to do it. So Jim might be looking at it, but he's not hands-on. You know, he might know who his CEO is going to be and he might know who his director of football is going to be. But this morning, there should be a boardroom meeting going on, looking at players and going, get rid, get rid, get rid, get rid. Big names, get rid. They've got to go. Because if we don't take this opportunity now, we'll never take it. Trust me when I say we're at the bottom of the barrel now. You know, when Ten Hag took over, I said something that was actually quite profound for me. I said, I don't think we're at the bottom of the barrel. And everyone was like, but you want Ten Hag. And I said, yeah, but just because we've got the right guy doesn't mean we've hit the bottom of the barrel. I think a lot of people assumed, well, we've got the right manager, we're going to start going up. And I said, we might not have hit the bottom of the barrel yet. Because just because you've got a good manager doesn't mean you go up. You might go up and down. And the reason I said that is because you've still got the Glazers, you still had Richard Arnold, you still had bad infrastructure, and you still had a squad I didn't trust. So, look, I don't think the manager is the problem. He might be, but I don't think he's the main problem. But I think we are at the bottom of the barrel now. The question is, do we want it to be the bottom of the barrel, or do we want to go down even further? Because what we need to do at this point is accept this is unacceptable and accept that this cannot happen again and put things in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. But to do that, we all know you've got to make ruthless big decisions. You've got to go, that player that everyone thinks is untouchable and will be here for the next 5 years, go. You're off. Piss off. Go. You're up for sale. And you've got to do that with 3 or 4 players and get rid of the obvious deadwood as well. You know, with things like the fitness department, the coaching, the recruitment, that all needs clearing out as well. But it needs to happen now. You've got to do it now. You've got to take this opportunity because there's more games to come. And in no time, next season will come around and we'll mess it up again. And Mark, not having a proper board and structure is going to be a challenge for Ten Hag as well. The players know there are no ramifications. Exactly, Div. Exactly. Legend like David was let go unceremoniously right before his wedding. He has still remained silent and not revealed anything. This is karma, says Ron. Look, De Gea was treated horrifically. Whether you think we should have got rid of him, and a lot of you did, whether you think we shouldn't have got rid of him, and I didn't, the way the club treated him was a disgrace, and that reflects badly on the football club. You know, you don't treat people like that, and we treated him badly. And I did tell you that there's players in that dressing room that are very, very, very frustrated in the summer at the treatment of De Gea, and also didn't understand why we'd done it anyway. So straight away going into the season, you've got players that didn't really back it. But look, that doesn't help us now. David De Gea's gone. We have to deal with what we've got. You know, you either stick with Onana or you make a change in goal. I said last night I'd bring Binder in. I'd do it for Anfield. I think that at some point, what I don't get is, welcome to the members club. What I don't get is, at any football club, Leeds did it last year with Meslier. You know, Leeds did it with Meslier. They changed the goalkeeper because they felt that he wasn't doing good enough. Why are we at a football club now where we're a charity? Why are we at a football club now where we question whether an underperforming player should be dropped? We took too long to drop Rashford, and we're taking too long to drop Onana. He needs to be dropped. And maybe other players need to be dropped. I mean, let's be honest. Man United got played off the park by Bournemouth. He made one change to that team. He brought Varane in. Like, why is Scott McTominay playing every week? I mean, everybody can see he's an absolute waste of time if he doesn't score a goal. Why is he sticking with him? So, look, you know, I just think that I'm not happy. And you know the thing that makes me not happy the most, and I'll give it you. I've seen Man United lose bad games over the years. I mean, the games that hurt me the most was that Aguero thing where we didn't even lose. The Aguero thing hurt when it was Aguero. The 2009 Champions League final in Rome, I thought we would win that. I was massively disappointed. So the biggest disappointments for me are big games. You know, big games. They're the biggest. You know, when I look back on bad Man United results, it's Liverpool 7-0 was embarrassing, but it's a fucking league game where we finished above them and we won a cup. It's embarrassing to lose to Liverpool 7-0 and you remember it, but the big games should be the games that you lose that matter, like that Champions League final in 2009 and the Aguero goal that cost us the league. They hurt me more than anything because they stopped us winning the things that Man United should be winning. And that is my issue right now, is I'm used to United losing games like Bournemouth and Brighton and Liverpool because it keeps happening all the time. But let's not forget, these games won't be games and should not be games that in 10 years' time you remember. I'll still remember '09 and I'll still remember that Aguero goal because they stopped us winning things. But we're nowhere near winning things. And my big fear is this morning is that we're just not going to put the things in place to get us back to where we need to be. I suspect in a year or two, we'll be back here again. We've crashed out of Europe again. You know, we're playing in the Europa League. You know, if I said to you this, right here, right now, what are the chances of us playing in the Conference League? Probably very high. How embarrassing is that for Manchester United? There's a new Champions League format next year. We're not going to be in it. We're not going to be in it. People keep talking about 5th place. I think Man United have just destroyed that for any English club. Because, you know, it's all about how many points England earns from its clubs in Europe this season to see if you're in the top 2 coefficient areas. Well, Man United have just gone out of Europe. We may as well not be in it. We've earned hardly any points. All it's going to take is Germany, Italy or Spain to have a good year collectively in Europe, and we'll be in big trouble. And remember, Newcastle could go out tonight as well. So 5th place for a Champions League spot doesn't look like it's there. We're not getting top 4. So we're not in the Champions League next year. I can tell you that now. So financially, you can write that. No money from February until May from Europe is going to cost us a lot. And then no Champions League next year is going to cost us a lot as well. This is a financial mess. A financial mess. The more time passes, and look, somebody said last night maybe Sir Jim Ratcliffe should be looking at this now and asking for a discount because of the money that United are going to lose. Well, more fool Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because United are not making any money this year and we're not going to make any money next year from Europe. So if he's giving the Glazers a good price, more fool him, because I don't see where he's making this money back. We know what we needed. I don't want to talk about the ownership, but we needed an owner to take over the club, clear the debt and pump money in. And I don't know whether anyone was willing to do that. I heard that was someone from Qatar who wanted to do it. But this is why, for the last year, most of us have been saying we need an owner that takes the club, clears the debt and pumps money in, a la Man City or Newcastle. And loads of people were like, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We do fucking need that. We do need that, because look at where we are. We are financially pumped. We are absolutely screwed, and we're about to lose a shitload of money. We are on the edge when it comes to debt. Financial fair play and spend is not looking good, and we've just gone and lost a load of money. Why do you think Man United are looking to get rid of Varane? Varane last night was man of the match. Varane is our best centre-back by a long way, and United are looking to sell him. Why are Man United looking to sell Varane? Why are Man United looking to sell their best centre-back? It's got nothing to do with ability. This is about saving money. Probably the same with Casemiro. We are a team that is not in a top 4 race. We are out of Europe and we are now selling our better players. We are messed up. If you want an analogy, you know what that is? Do you know what that means? Mum and dad have lost their job and they're selling their clothes and the car. That's what Man United have just done. Out of Europe, mum's lost her job. Out of top 4, dad's lost his job. Ferrari's up for sale. Mercedes is up for sale. Yeah, we're fucked. Read the signs. We are financially in shit. We're not a relevant football club and we're selling our better players. People think we're selling Varane because we're going to go and buy a better centre-back. People think we're selling Casemiro because we're going to go and buy a better midfielder. I can see what it is. We're selling them because they're expensive. We're selling them to reduce the wage bill. This is cost cutting. This is a business in trouble. That's what we're doing. Wake up. And this is what I mean. People are sleeping on what's going on at United. We are in trouble. We're in big, big trouble. We owe hundreds of millions of pounds on transfers. We already know we're in hundreds of millions of pounds of debt. We've just lost a revenue stream. We've just lost a revenue stream from February until May from Europe, which will be tens of millions of pounds. Not being in the Champions League next year is another revenue stream of tens of millions of pounds. Let's not talk about sponsor ramifications of not being in Europe. We are in trouble, and expect these articles to come out. But some people still think, as soon as we get this Sir Jim deal done, we'll be fine. He's just going to pump in hundreds of millions of pounds and everything's going to be fine. Yeah, because that's how a businessman works. I wouldn't do that if I was to Jim for 25%. The club's we're in a right mess. And also, I think from a footballing point of view, it's very important to accept we deserve to get knocked out of Europe. There's no injustice. There's no bad luck. We deserve to get knocked out of Europe, and we deserve to be wherever we are in the league at the moment because there are better teams than us. There's not even an ounce of optimism. Are you optimistic that we're on the right path? Do you think, and this is the harshest reality, do you think we're on the right path? Do you feel like we will get in the top 4 by May? Do you feel that we are a team that's getting closer to Man City and Liverpool? Or do you feel like we're getting further away? Because I know how I feel. The more time passes, the more your comment about selling Rashford at the time seems more accurate to United's long-term success, says Les. Welcome to Members Club, Baron. Eric Ten done that one and done that one as well. Look, I'm not individualising this. You know, Onana's cost us Champions League football. Only an idiot would not accept that because the facts are there. But my biggest issue is why did we do the deal in the first place? Why do you let a goalkeeper go who was doing well and spend £50 million to replace him? That 50 million, look, if we'd kept De Gea, I'm not saying he's the answer, but he would have been fine. For another year, all I said was keep De Gea for another year. That's all I said. It's not the deal we need to do now. If we'd kept De Gea, that 50 million quid could have been spent on another striker, could have been spent on a centre-back. The decision, I thought Onana was better than he is. I still think he is better than he is, but I never would have done the deal because it was just financially stupid and we didn't need to do it. Every day I look at it and I go... And then people will go, yeah, but he wanted to play Varane, Martinez, Shaw and Wan-Bissaka and play a higher line and play out from the back, Mark. It's just bad luck. But I don't think it is bad luck. Martinez was injured when we bought Onana. Like, you can't say it's bad luck that Martinez has had a relapse. He was injured. We should have been monitoring that injury. Varane's always been injury prone. Luke Shaw is injury prone. It's not a massive leap to go, if I buy a ball playing goalkeeper, I might not have a defence that can do it. And so it's come to pass. Ten Hag's pressers are his biggest enemies. I really hope he just says these things to keep his job and it's not his actual mindset. It's a space. If Nice becomes top of the French league, there's no European at all for us, says Ed. As I say, you know, we're in a right state. Zane says if Ten Hag goes, fine, but if the club thinks the players can get away with it and fans can be sold snake oil again, then they are mistaken. The fans see for what they are, bottle jobs, says Zane. Well, look, some fans are saying that certain players who are ill and injured are just dodging Sunday against Liverpool. Well, you know, this same thing happened with Ranić at the end. I remember us playing Brighton and the injury list and ill list was massive. I can't remember who was out at the time. I don't think Rashford played. I don't think Sancho played. Maybe not Shaw. I don't know whether Bruno played. I remember Ronaldo might have played. But look, this is what happens. This is a mentality thing. Certain players don't fancy it. They've done it before. They don't fancy it. I'm not saying the players that are... I mean, Harry Maguire's definitely injured. You saw it. But what I'm saying is I talk about the squad as a collective. I don't want to individualise it. There's no point. It's like blaming the manager. There's no point individualising Man United's problems because they are huge and various. There are loads of problems at United. If I was the CEO or the owner of Man United this morning and somebody came into my office and said, Ten Hag needs to be sacked, I'd throw a glass of water on them, which you shouldn't do. It's still assault. But the reality is, I would say get out. If that, in fact, you're sacked. You know, if you're coming here telling me the manager's the problem, you shouldn't be at this football club. I'm writing a big list of problems, and I'm up to number 39, who is also a problem, Scott McTominay. But the list is massive. It's absolutely massive. But when I talk about the players, I'm talking about in general that dressing room is toxic. In general, it's not good enough, and in general, they've downed tools many times. And if players don't fancy it because they're not happy, look, I know for a fact, you know for a fact, you can have your ideas, I can have my ideas, but I know for a fact that there's players that aren't happy and have decided that, you know, now's the time to get rid of the manager. You know, you can take guesses at who that is, but we all know it's happening. We all know it's a toxic dressing room. We've seen the evidence of it. Bournemouth, they down tools. So, look, I think Ten Hag, when he said this last night, the players gave everything. We saw the spirit. I have to pay a big compliment for the way they work together as a team against a good Bayern side. I think those play. I think he puts. I genuinely have said this a few times. I think he picked Scott McTominay because Scott McTominay does play for the badge. And he will run around. Unfortunately, he's just not good enough. You can't. It's survival football. We said this after Fulham. He's picking players that he trusts, but they're not good enough. The players that can get him results aren't available to him, because they won't play for him. They've downed tools. They're not in the right place. And that's the problem with Man United. We buy talent, we don't buy mentality. We've got mentality, but they haven't got the talent. That's the problem at United. And we look like a dishevelled team. There's never any consistency. There's never any chemistry. Ten Hag also said, we know we want to be more consistent. Me as a manager, I have to improve the team, help the team progress, guide them, and the players have to take responsibility. We have to do that together. He said, Bayern always, even when they're not in the game, have enough individual class to produce one moment, and that's what's happened. The team did very good. We were very good defensively and in the pressing. We had many ball regains, especially second half, but then we didn't take enough benefit from it. We were playing against a strong side. Paul Scholes was talking about where the goals are going to come from. We didn't ever look like we were going to score last night. Ten Hag says we've got to learn from this. We played some good football in the Champions League. Højlund scored 5 times. That's a very good performance. You have to take that into the Premier League. We want to be back in the Champions League. And he said that we haven't got any depth on the bench. That's clear. Big compliment to the team against this good Bayern side. We needed energy from the bench. The options on the front line were limited. And we want to be more consistent. I have to improve the team. I have to guide them, and the players have to be more responsible. We made mistakes, some individual errors from more players. In the end, it's not good enough. Today, the performance was very good. We didn't deserve to lose, but we lost the game. A bit all over the place, if I'm being honest. I think that's a fair reflection. Look, as I was saying, there will be people who, look, quite rightly, as I said yesterday morning, I think I said it on the match reaction last night. He needs to sort Rashford out, says Robert McCormack. He definitely does. Ricky said McSauce played well yesterday. Thoughts, says Grace. But Ricky's got his favourites. You've got your favourites. I've got my favourites. Varane is one of my favourite players. I thought he was man of the match. Amrabat last night, I thought he was very underrated and he played well, but I like Amrabat. Anthony, until Dalot moved, I thought Anthony played well and then he disappeared as well. So I've got my favourites. Ricky's got his favourites. That's all it is. My personal opinion of Scott McTominay is that he offers absolutely nothing. You received the ball in a good... We had a good phase of play in the second half. Anthony gives him the ball on the edge of the box. His control was shit and knocks it onto his weak left foot, which he loses anyway. And I'm like, this is the Champions League. You can't control a ball like that. And his passing's not good enough. He's not quick enough. He doesn't anticipate the danger. But McTominay will give his all, but he ain't good enough. He's not good enough. It's like having Marcus Albrighton on the wing for Manchester United. He will give it his all, but he ain't good enough. And that's just the honest answer. Casemiro's got 7 assists in 63 games and McTominay has 6 in 227. It's no wonder our strikers don't score. But Nemanja, you've sort of nailed Scott McTominay there. In the box, he can score a goal. He can't create, he can't pass, he can't tackle, he's not very quick. He's got one skill. He's got one skill. That's not enough. It's like having a winger who's quick. It's like having a striker who's good in the air. It's like having a centre-back who can tackle. You need way more than that. If you're a striker and you're good in the air, you need to be, you need to have the link-up play. You need to have the ball, the finishing skills with your feet, off both feet, hopefully. We've got a player playing for us who's got one attribute, and it's not good enough. But back to Ten Hag. Look, we're not going to dismiss the fact that this... And some people who are Ten Hag in, like me, won't like me saying this, but I said it yesterday morning, so I'll say it again. Going out of Europe before Christmas is a sackable tick, but you don't get sacked for that at Manchester United. The evidence is there. We all know the cycle. Let's not ignore the cycle. The cycle of sacking managers is there. And what sacks a Man United manager over the last 10 years, and it did for Moyes, and it did for Ollie, and it did for Mourinho, and I think it did for Van Gaal as well. What sacks a manager at Man United is, 1, going out of Europe before Christmas, 2, not qualifying for Europe, 3, media, 4, players, and 5, most of all, fans. You lose all of that, you've lost your job. Ten Hag has definitely just lost one of them. He's out of Europe before Christmas. Is he at, are Man United going to qualify for Europe this year? Well, I'd say we're halfway to not there. But they can't sack him off that because they don't know. They don't know. That we might not know that till February, March, but we're not getting top 4. I know we're not getting top 4, but the club will look at it and go, well, we're only 6 points off top 4. We're not going to get top 4. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. So he is, the title of the show is Ten Hag sacking inevitable. A lot of reports this morning aren't really saying sack Ten Hag, but there's a lot of journalists and reports out there this morning saying that it's inevitable. He will get sacked at some point. So I feel that I feel that I go back to what I said before. If I was the CEO of Man United, and we haven't fucking got one, by the way, so this won't happen. But if I was the CEO of United, I'd have him in the office this morning, and it would be a long conversation, and I'd be taking notes, and I'd be saying, what is your vision for the team? Who's going? Who's coming in? And those 3 things will basically decide if I want to sack him or not. And remember, if Blanc comes in, that chat needs to happen now, because I want to know what's your vision for the team, who you're going to sell and who you're going to keep. And that will tell me straight away. Because if he says to me, I want to really build the team around Scott McTominay, which is what he's trying to do, I only want to play with one holding midfielder, then I'm going to go, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then I'm going to go and have a chat with someone else and go, I don't think this is a good idea. What do you think? So, look, Ten Hag's put himself on the pathway to the sack. And I don't want him to get sacked. But I'm not going to pretend. I think if you wake up this morning and say, we've got to stick with this manager, you're not understanding what Man United's all about. I don't want the manager to be sacked is very different to we've got to stick with this manager. I don't want the manager to be sacked because I want to see a different approach. I am not saying that I think that this manager is the right man for Man United. I don't know. But I don't want the manager to be the fall guy. There is other things that need to change before we sack the manager, because my big fear is if we sack the manager, everyone will go, we've got a new manager, and all the other problems get away with it. You look at when Mourinho got the sack. Everyone forgot about the toxic dressing room. Everyone forgot about the Glazers. It was Ollie's at the wheel. And then when Ollie got the sack, everyone forgot about the toxic players and they forgot about the Glazers because Ten Hag was coming in. And then if Ten Hag gets sacked, the toxic players and the Glazers again will get away with it. This is why I don't want the manager to be sacked above anything else, because I know what happens. I've seen the cycle. Manager gets sacked, everyone gets excited about a new one, the players get away with it, the Glazers get away with it, and 3 years later we're back here. I do not want to sack the manager because I want to see the changes that need to happen before that. But that is very different to saying I'm waking up this morning backing the manager. I'm not backing the manager. I just don't want him to be sacked. I don't know enough about what his vision is to say he's the guy. I really don't at the moment. I don't want him to be sacked. I want him to succeed, but I don't know what his vision is, and I'm certainly not going to sit here this morning saying Ten Hag in, everything's okay, because it's not okay. It's a festering shit not okay. It's absolutely unacceptable not okay. And anybody this morning that thinks that it's not, any Man United fan who's waking up this morning going, who isn't frustrated and pissed off and embarrassed, it's not okay. But the changes we need to make need to happen now, and they need to be big changes. My fear is nothing will change. McTominay was also very lazy in the press. Often they beat the press because he was too slow to close down his man. Well, he's slow, Sam. Gems has just gifted a membership. Thanks, Gems. Tim Faulkner as well. Thank you very much for that. Welcome to the members club. But yeah, look, I think with where we go next, we go to Liverpool, don't we? We've got West Ham away, and we've got Aston Villa on Boxing Day. We're very beatable at the moment, and I don't know how that changes. I really don't. I don't know what was going to happen with Manchester United, but we desperately need change infrastructure change. We need this Sir Jim Ratcliffe signed now. You know, we need this done so we can at least see what the next step is. But I've never been so uncertain about what our future is. I really don't know what it is. I've got absolutely no idea. And I would imagine within that football club, they feel exactly the same. And that's not a good look. You need leadership. That club needs leadership. It's a rudderless ship. And I'll go back to what I said at the start of the video as well. You know, I wasn't at Old Trafford. I wasn't in the press zone. You know, the players walked past the press. But what was fed back to me by 4 or 5 people last night was that the players just ignored the press and walked through and wouldn't talk to them. Now, whether they're allowed to talk to them or not, that is a bad look. That is a bad look for players who have embarrassed themselves and the club to ignore questions and not want to front up. It's a bad look because it means you'll get yourself on Twitter, you'll do your interviews when things are going well, but when things are bad, quiet and sulk. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's a really bad look. When Man United used to win things and then they lost, players fronted up. Gary Neville, David Beckham, Eric Cantona, Roy Keane. You front up. You're as angry as the fans are. And I don't think these players get it. I really don't I don't think these players get it. And I know Delo spoke, and I think Johnny Evans spoke as well, but the majority of them, they don't want to front up. And that's not a good look. We talk about mentality. Look at how they react to a loss. Their heads drop. You've got to front up in defeat. You've got to. You know, of course you're disappointed, but you've got to front up. They get beat so often because they're used to it. Is this rock bottom, says Sid? Well, I hope it's rock bottom. It needs to be rock bottom. That's what I mean. Massive changes need to happen today. This needs to be rock bottom, but it's whether the Glazers are going to let it be rock bottom. We could go even further. We could drop even further. Anyway, look, fantastic show today. Don't forget, we've got a special call-in for you at 2 o'clock today. Get involved. We need it. This is what we're all about, community. We had a great show on Monday night. Remember, that's going to be going up on the members section very soon for the members. So if you are a member, get ready for that. The Christmas show will be going up in its entirety very, very soon. But a special 2 o'clock call-in today for you to watch, listen, or get involved in. You know what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about what I've been talking about for the last hour. What needs to happen at Manchester United? What needs to change? What's pissing you off? It's going to be a cracker. Tune in at 2 o'clock or catch it later if you can't watch it at 2. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. And, yeah, let's see what's next for Manchester United.